talkies. This is a big room, so it's great being here. My name's John Abel, I'm Managing Director in the Office of the CTO. I want to take you on a journey today. It's amazing being back here in Amsterdam, and I'm going to take you on a journey from some history and heritage and then push right through to the latest technology. And actually, one of the things we need to start with is the era we're in is not new to us. We've been using artificial intelligence, lots of people in this room, for multiple decades. It's actually been part of our security, risk assessment, and actually it's been part of the core function of most businesses. We probably just did not refer to it as AI. And the reason why is, if we look at machine learning, one of the aspects of it is quite a technical skill. And that technical skill, most of that technology was hidden from you as it was a solution or as an analytics report. Now, in the generative AI era, it is now the tool of choice for you. And actually, one of the things you have to realize is that generative AI empowers you. And that's a key message, that actually we are providing a capability that it needs you to use it and enrich it and experience it in your own context. We're the foundation partner, and one of the things that we've always believed in is important to bring it to Europe. Yes, we are creating data centers here in Europe to give you capability, but more importantly, we're also allowing you to exploit a lot of our heritage. We realized many years ago that to actually enable AI meant we had to rethink as a company. We developed a processor called a TPU, and what a Terraform, which is one of the fundamental components of AI, does, we had to write something that meant we didn't need to have gigantic, massive amount of data centers. We could optimize our footprint. And actually, as part of that, we now have over 9 applications with 1 billion users. And as you can see here, we have some with multiple billion users. All of this is part of our DNA. Would you believe that actually this year, that the first time that we used at scale was 24 years ago, AI, and that was the spell checker in search. We also, would you believe, have a very special birthday, and I had one of the most used. iPhone was invented in 2007. So this is our DNA. We know that it's a huge responsibility to provide you capability. And one of the things we also realise is that billions of people use this in their active day. One of the things I'm very proud of is actually being neurodiverse. I'm dyslexic, I have reading age difficulties, or I read like a young person, I have issues writing. Without generative AI, I would not be able to do my job. I used to have niche technology, specialist help, I'd have to have people help me write my papers, my articles, and do the work I do in engineering. Now I use generative AI. The reason I love this technology, it's a barrier remover. We can now do things that we could never have done in the past. It's enabled me to have a career. And one of the things I urge you to do is see this as your tool of choice to allow you to exploit what you want to do as people and harness what you've got the power of. Yes, we've got to go back to school and learn things like prompt engineering, but what's quite important to us is making sure that it's in the context of your usage. Now, you can have multiple experiences with Google and Google Cloud, for example, specifically either in an integrated stack, if you're using like a Gemini app, or Nano Banana, if you're doing those crazy images. You can also have the ability of specific aspects of the technology. Back in 2020, I was working on some of the early work on sovereignty, which is critical to Europe. And actually, I want to raise at this point, at that time, we defined 3 aspects. We had operational sovereignty, data sovereignty, and software sovereignty. As we move into this agent world, and I'll come back to this later, that requires us to have transparency and openness. Our agent development kit is open source. Agent to agent is a protocol that allows communication across that open source. This open community means you have choice. You can either have a stacked integrated set of technology, or you could have components, or you could have open source, or open technology, or open models. Now, just to bring this to life, I work a lot with Formula E. If you get on my LinkedIn, you'll see that I talk about this a lot. One of the things I've always wanted to do was actually have telemetry data coming off a race car and to interact with it. So what I do is I take telemetry data. We get for a lap of 69 seconds, about 6,900 rows per car per lap. So in the race, we'd get millions of rows. What we can now do is actually have generative AI Gemini interacting with that data, going way beyond just the classic RAG interface, which is providing this natural language to SQL. We're actually taking the data into this new domain called long context window and allowing us to explore that. Why is this important? The data is getting closer to the business user of the need of the data. It's also important to know that actually when you're dealing with Google technology, your data is your data. We have no interest in it. We can't access it, we can't use it in any way at all. So for us, it's a really cool point. Now, we did take this one step further and actually have Gemini Live, which allows us to read a simulator. A lot of people don't get naturally into a Formula E car and be able to run it straight out of the box. And the price of entry for someone to get into motorsport is super high. So imagine a sim racer at home having a coach teach them how to use their sim. Now we've got that with Gemini Live, some of the work we've been doing in Formula E. Now, I want to give you an example. Signify here, based in the Netherlands, is actually a great customer example. Obviously, you probably know them more for their Philips Hue lights, but one of the things that's important is they are a technology innovator. The first thing they did was they moved to a standard foundation. One of the things you need to consider in your use of AI is that AI you have today is probably going to be much more valuable to you in the context of all your data. And obviously with this thing called multimodal, it could be images, text, relational data, voice, video. You can now use this in the context of AI much more easier than you've ever used before. So what happens here is they started off using this technology and helping their innovators create amazing products. Now what they do is use AI for managing the grid usage of electricity that spikes when people turn on their lights in the morning or in the evening, or when they're in the darker time of autumn and winter. This is changing the way that they operate, and they're an amazing customer of ours, and we're very proud to be working with them. What we also know is that this is something that's going to fuel you in Europe. We know today that the investment that Europe's putting in, we're having to also invest at the same pace. Building these data centres, like in the Netherlands, like in Benelux and Germany, is critical for not only sovereignty, but also critical for you to use this technology in your business. Now, if you go back, that we've been investing in this technology in Europe for over 25 years. We've been committed to the success of Europe. And through this, we've realised some key statistics that we want to share with you today. The first one is the estimated economic impact is about 179 billion euro for the investments that we've made. Also, this equates to round about 3 million jobs. Now, last year, Implement Consulting wrote a new piece of research talking about the impact to GDP of AI, and especially generative AI. It is expected over the next 10 years to get to 8% impact if we act now. Now, that has got seismic impacts on you, the societies in Europe. And one of the things we need to do is get to understand this, to get to understand where we will use it and where we won't use it. We also, many years ago, realised explainability of AI was essential. So you will notice that a lot of our open source technology, like explainable AI, like What If, Facet that I use, is open source. Again, allowing you to have the ability to understand how it works. So, as we go through this, we realise that we're at the start of the journey. But we've got to keep going and we've got to keep investing and creating new technology. If you ever go to San Francisco and see some of our buildings, one of my favourite is the Dragon scale building. The reason why is when I was in sustainability, that has one of the largest heat sinks that's underground. It has no air conditioning. It's powered by wind farm and solar energy only. It also has no black or foul water leaving site. It's processed on site. It produces more water than it consumes. We have to keep innovating technology to enable us to reduce our impacts, because elements like our efficient data centers, like our TPUs, is actually the things that we give those foundations. We're like the highway of providing the platform capabilities for you. We're also helping SMEs and small businesses to grow. Majority of people work in small industries, small businesses, and this is going to be new to them as well. So we have to realise there's a responsibility about enabling people and helping people on that journey. Now, we've got to unlock all of this value, and as we move into this AI era and digital skills cannot be divorced. I'm very passionate about technology being a cornerstone of education, especially AI and data. Would you believe today that Google has helped train 14 million European to be digital skilled? And we've only just started. This is a journey we're both on, and we will travel it together. Now, when we move to cybersecurity, AI has got a critical role in this area. If you consider that actually many elements of what we have to deal with start with digital sovereignty. In 2020, Google Cloud presented a blog by Thomas Kurian that talks about operational sovereignty that I mentioned at the start, talks about data sovereignty, talks about software sovereignty. I was one of the engineers that worked on that project. Even back then, we realised that actually it was critical to make sure that every country is empowered to look after their data and the needs of their data and technology. We had to use the DNA of Google's investment in open source to make that happen. We also realised that actually at that start, it meant that we had to think about flexibility. It is critical to know that in AI, you must have choice. We want you to use our technology and our infrastructure and our large language models. Back in 2017, what we have now with generative AI was created by Google in Transformer. Giving birth to this technology meant we also have a responsibility to make sure that we harness it in a way that you utilise it safely and securely. Now, as we go through this, there are going to be areas that you're going to have to spend time on. We try to make it simple for you. We've always had security at the DNA equally as parallel to AI, and it starts with security by design and security by default. I said at the start, your data is your data. I'm going to say it again, that we have multiple times explained to people that we want you to know you're secure. We do a lot of work to make sure that your data is safe. Either if you want to house it in Europe, house it in air-gap solutions with things like Google Distributed Cloud, or if you want to use planet-scale technology. The other thing that's important for us is as you go through this, you're going to start thinking about the acts that are coming out, the messages that are coming out through Europe. The good thing is, we are completely committed to them. I was working with the AI Act and the Data Act, and what I liked is a lot of the aspects that are described and being required really align well to choice open technology, data locations. That investment we made back in 2020 is really critical, but that didn't start in 2020. It started over 2 decades ago. You can't just switch on AI. You have to have all of the enforcement and investment in the technology. And as we go through this, we're learning and exploring together for the better good. Now, I'm going to go back to Formula E. One of the questions that I get asked is, what's my role as a person in the future? You know, what am I going to be doing? Well, AI does 2 things amazingly well. One, it does scale of what you want to do as a business. 2, it allows you to remove toil or friction or repetitive tasks. The thing I love about my job is being creative. What you've got to do is empower people to be creative. As we remove toil and friction, new opportunities will arise, new challenges will appear, new jobs will appear. I was looking back when I started doing technology. I wrote my first line of code when I was 11 years old, and in the early 80s. None of the job adverts we have today existed back then. None. There was no concept of agile developer. There was no concept of AI or data scientist. Invest time to learn, go back to school and experiment. But what I want to do is leave you with some top tips, because I think it's important. And to make that come to life is, I thought I'd give you the building blocks through some of the things we learned through Formula E to innovate, and actually help you on your own journey. So here are the top 5 tips for you. The first is, integrate this into your culture, beliefs and bias. Make this a citizen technology. Don't make it a corporate technology. Empower the people with the technology to allow them to adopt it and make them creative. Biased beliefs and culture are everything with AI. The reason I love working in Europe, the reason why I'm a very happy European, is we have diversity that's rich, strong views, and we have strong beliefs, and we want to remove bias. Use that as your cornerstone. Focus on the outcomes. Focus on the benefits. Don't make it this crazy technology that you don't understand. Do something that adds value. Never forget the people. It's people and technology will be the winners, not technology or people. You need the talent, you need to invest in this, you need to train them. The best users of generative AI are the business users that know the questions to be answered. Communication is my 4th point. Make sure that you communicate really clearly, and make sure you are decisive in how you communicate. One of the things I see fail the most is you don't communicate the success and the learnings and the failures. It's okay to fail in experimental. You learn that way. But build the right foundation. Build the right foundation for your business. And my last note to you is, as you go through this, you're going to go on a journey yourself, your organizations. Stay with it, enjoy it, and make sure that you have a fantastic conference. On that, I'm going to let you go. Have a great day. Thank you very much.